Ask almost any teacher in the country the hardest part of their job and student behavioural issues will be right up there. But when it comes to actually being able to address this, most feel as though their hands are tied. Woke ideology and mollycoddling every single place you go. British behaviour expert Tom Bennett visited Australia last week and, well, he does not mince his words. The Australian did a great story with him, so I wanted to get him on in person. Tom, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to start with this. Are our kids too naughty at school?
Kids have always been naughty at school. The question is, what do you do with them when they are? You shouldn't be surprised when kids push the boundaries. It's practically in their job description. So one of the things we need to do is make sure, that kids understand that they have boundaries. And if you're going to have boundaries, that means you have to have some kind of consequences for boundaries. And that includes sanctions. And there's a really big problem with a lot of countries, not just Australia, UK too, where there's this presumption that you shouldn't ever tell a kid off or make them face the consequences of their action. That doesn't mean being mean or being horribly punitive. What it means is pushing back and saying, you can't do this anymore. So that's a really big issue in a lot of countries, including some areas in Australia.
But you can understand from a teacher's perspective, if they're going to try and discipline a child, that child goes home, complains to parents and say, you bullied my child, etc., etc., or the child says, I feel bullied, or, it's so hard for them. How do they overcome that obstacle?
Yeah, I mean, kids are famously truthful when they tell their parents what really happened. I think, they're renowned for this, right? I think the problem is that teachers need to have the confidence of communicating to parents really early to say, look, we care about your kid. Because we care about your child, we're going to set up some boundaries. And this is what's going to happen. And if you do that before anything happens, it's much more likely you've got a relationship with the parents because they love their kids too. 99% of parents love their kids more than any teacher will. It's their kid. But what they need to do is understand that doesn't mean that rules only apply to everyone else apart from their child. And I think when you have that conversation with children and parents, they get it. They understand that they want to feel safe in classrooms, and being safe means having lots of clear boundaries and clear guidelines and standards with consequences for their actions.
You do realise, Tom, that teachers learn how to teach in universities and they notoriously have weakened, I believe, significantly over the years. Are universities partly to blame here?
I'm going to get bricks thrown at me from across the world here. Yes, in part, because not all of them. Some of them are doing, the Lord's work, but for a lot of teachers in Australia and the UK, they're not entering the classroom with the classroom management skills you would hope they would have. And a lot of people outside of teaching and education would be really shocked to hear how little training you actually get in this. I mean, I can barely manage my own behaviour, let alone anyone else's. And yet we're supposed to manage the behaviour of 25 other children, some of whom will have really complex things going on in their lives. So that's a big problem. And the other big problem is, of course, the prescription that many teachers and schools face, that you're not allowed to use sanctions and you've just got to have conversations with children and that will be enough. That's not true.
It's not enough. No, it's not enough at home. It's not enough in the classroom. Quickly, before I let you go, you believe that misbehaviour is too often blamed on mental health issues. That's a slippery slope, isn't it, once you start doing that for every problem in a classroom?
Yeah, I mean, this is the last 10, 20 years, we've really started to what I call pathologise perfectly normal behaviours and say there must be some underlying mental health issue. I mean, and that's not the case. I mean, every time that I drive too fast on the motorway, not that I do, I don't expect the traffic police to say, what's really going on with your behaviour? Why are you doing this? And then give me a ticket to say, have a conversation. I expect them to stop me,
No, you're brilliant, Tom. I'd love to get you back on over the next few weeks because you've got so many great ideas and you just speak the truth, and that is so refreshing. Really appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much.